Hello everyone, welcome to Down Home Crypto. I'm Serenity, and in this episode, we're going to go back to a project that started at the beginning of the year, the peak of the bull market. And that's when I got into it. But unlike so many projects that went through the bear market and they crashed and they burned, they went by the wayside, you know what? These guys didn't. They buckled down the hatches, they kept building, they kept driving. They're beta testing right now, and they're going to be launching very, very soon. So I think it's a great time to bring this information to you to see what you think about it. But first, if you would please do me a huge favor, take a moment, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video, because some of this information can be time sensitive. But most importantly, please, 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 if you don't realize it yet, digital currency is not going away. So share this information with somebody out there who has no idea this world exists. Let them know they don't have to be tech savvy or college educated or rich. They simply have to have a desire to change their life and a courage to follow that dream, and they too can join us on this great crypto adventure. So without further ado, let's go check out Mech.Game. So there you go, everybody. That was a promo video run by Mech.Game back at the first of the year. And this was at the peak of the bull market. I mean, we were all looking at getting rich quick, and you had all these different play-to-earn games that launched and people minted and, quadrupled their money like overnight. It was crazy. But then what happened, of course, is the Ukraine, and then the Luna Classic, then the FTX. I mean, just a train wreck of events. At the same time, most of these play-to-earn games realized the tokenomics were unrealistic. And so the first people in, they made a ton of bank. Then they jacked up the price of the NFTs, they were unreasonable, and eventually the protocol just bled to death. But during that time, Mech.Game did the smart thing. They buckled down the hatches, they kept building, they kind of went quiet. In fact, for a while there, I thought they were just gone. I didn't know. But I've checked in from time to time, and I see the Discord still active. I keep seeing an occasional AMA by Tanner, the CEO. And so I knew it was still doing something, I just wasn't exactly sure what. Found out they've been doing a ton. I watched a 2.5-hour AMA that they posted yesterday, where Tanner really went on a deep dive on what's been building, what's coming out, what they've got, and how close we are to be able to launch this project. In fact, right now we're at the final stages of fine-tuning the tokenomics, even brought in some special skill sets just for that alone to make sure this protocol is profitable and is long-term. So I'm going to go through just the bullet points. Now, this is not a deep dive. This is not going all the way down in depth. Some of the stuff isn't even made, so I can't do a deep dive yet, but I will. But I want to put this out on your radar and let you guys know these guys are still there. They're still building. And I want to share with you some of the perks of owning a Mech NFT is going to get you if it's something you decide to get into. Now, if you don't, that's okay. There are always new projects coming out. There's always other opportunities. And this may not be in the price range of some of you, because right now, the cheapest Mech is about $430. But I'll show you where to get that. Personally, I paid $600 for mine. So it's kind of a discount in the long run. But of course, that was a bull market. So right now, $430 could be a tough call. You have to make the choice for yourself. So here's the bullet points. Now, the long AMA I discussed, I will put a link in the description down below to that AMA, as well as to their Discord channel. Jump in, get to know the team, ask any questions you would want. They're going to get it hammered out for you if that knowledge is available. So let's start this off by showing you what my Mech looks like. So as you guys know, I only want to talk about things that I believe in so strongly that I will personally invest in. This is one that I did invest in. As you can see right here, Mech.Game owned by you. So this is my Mech. Now, the big thing here is there's a lot of different properties and capabilities. The most important I want to point out right off the bat is classification, and that's Genesis. Now, that's the only mechs that are minted right now, but make sure that you're getting an actual true Genesis Mech.Game mech, because there's always forgeries, there's always fakes out there, and if you're not sure, go to the Discord, go to the official links through there, and that'll take you to the right place. But I also want to show you what else is available out there. So on OpenSea, if I go to Mech.Game, now that pulls up the list of all the mechs that are out there currently. Now I can sort these guys from price lowest to highest. As you see right now, the cheapest mech is 0.34 Ethereum. So let's go take a look at that. So 0.34 ETH is going to cost $431.33 right now. Now, the great thing is the gas is not crazy as it used to be. It's still going to cost a couple bucks, but not horrible. But this is still a great time. Like I said, I got in on $600 for my mech. This one is $430, so right off the bat, you're getting a discount. Now, they've already done the drone drop. Okay, that was another NFT that came with the mechs that they're going to have later in the gameplay, where they're going to have special drone features, things like that, and you can buy those individually. So just know that if you buy one of these off a secondary market, you're not going to get the drone with it. That's going to be a separate piece. But the biggest thing we're going to talk about here is about the Genesis Mechs, okay? So I want to make that very aware. But now if we back up and we start looking at the floor price of these, like I said, the lowest is 0.34. But then it jumps up pretty quick to 0.6, then to 0.9, then to 1, and then it just goes up from there. So these things are not going to last. These floors are getting swept. A lot of people are starting to pick these up, especially with the latest announcement. So if it is something that you are serious about, do your research, find out if it's really for you. And if it is, I'd recommend pick one up quick, because I'm really trying to figure out how to scrape up $431 right now to buy another mech, because for me, one is just not enough. But there's a lot of different configurations, and I'm sure these are going to play a part in the game. I don't know the full gameplay aspect of it, but there's different weapon systems, there's different slots, all types of different configurations, the way they walk, the way they move. And these are the actual mechs you're going to play in the game. I want to make that very clear. These are not just a rendition. This is the actual mech. Whatever you own is what you get to play. So let's go find out what's entailed in the gameplay and what are the benefits of owning a Genesis Mech. So before we get going, the one thing you guys always know about me, there's 3 questions I ask: the what, the who, and the why. One thing I love about Mech.Game is Tanner Larsson right here is the founder. He's the CEO. And you will see his face and his name on pretty much everything that occurs on Mech.Game. I like the fact that the actual CEO is always out front and center. You know him, you can talk to him, you'll see him in the Discord, you can chat with him there. But that's something that's very unique. Tanner is always on camera. He is always the front man. He doesn't hide behind anybody else or anything else. So the great thing is you can always know exactly who you're dealing with. Now, most of the information I'm going to give to you today is little snippets out of this long AMA.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Welcome to the December 7th Ask Me Anything. This is the most recent AMA.
So here we are, Tanner Larsson, like I said, front and center, always leading the charge. I love to see the founders out in front, not sending other people out, but literally going out, promoting, and giving that information personally. Now, if you want to talk to Tanner or any of the team members, you'll find them in the Discord. So I'll put the link to the description down below. But jump in, any questions you may have. They will definitely get the answers for you if it's something they can give. Now, some of these things are still under creation, and we're going to cover that here in a bit about the tokenomics and how all that system is going to work. But please understand, they are still designing and fine-tuning that last bit of tokenomics, which is one of the final pieces for the launch of this. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is the strongholds. Okay. Now, strongholds are essentially your base within the game. In those strongholds, you're going to have expansion pads around it. Okay, so a level 1 stronghold will have 3 expansion pads automatically. A level 2 will have 5 expansion pads. And a level 3 will have 7 expansion pads. Okay, those expansion pads are where you're going to build things like your forge. That's the very first thing going to go into the game on that expansion pad. So if you want to do any breeding or forging, you have to have a forge. To do that, you have to put that on an expansion pad, which means you have to have a stronghold. Okay. Now, please understand, if you are going in and you're going to rent a mech and play to earn, you do not have to have a stronghold. But if you are going to be an owner and you want to do the play to earn to get the mech coins, you do have to have a stronghold. If you want to rent or lease out your mechs to other players, you have to have a stronghold. And if you want to do any forging or breeding, of course, you have to have a stronghold to put the forge on your pad to forge with. Okay, so please understand those variations. But what are some of the perks for having that stronghold that are only available to the Genesis Mech holders?
Initial launch of P2E, which is the forge. Okay, you own a stronghold, but if you want to be able to forge new mechs, you need to build a forge. Okay, and you have to use one of your base slots to build a forge. Okay, the forge will also be, and then once you build it, it will, in the game control center, it will be placed on that spot, and you will visually be able to see that one of your pads has been taken up by a forge. And when you access that forge, inside that will be all of your forging requirements, where you'll use the blueprints and you'll use your tokens and all of that stuff to forge a new NFT.
Okay, so that's one big important piece is not only is this stronghold your base in the game, but then you get a forge and you add that module to your base. Even though you're going to be forging outside of the game in the control panel, it still gives you that visual representation within the game that exists. Now, what are all the other modules? He talks a little bit about it could be a weapons bay, it could be a repair shop. We don't really know. What we know is it is getting built, but the very first and most critical is that forge. Okay, but let's go in and understand all the aspects of the Stronghold. Tanner's going to talk a little bit more about that, so I'm going to let him tell you about it.
First one that will launch with the initial PDE will be the forge because it's required for breeding. Does this make sense, guys? How cool are these strongholds? This is just one stronghold, by the way. We have a whole bunch of different styles of them and colors and everything. You guys liking this? Awesome. Okay. So Stronghold, continue with the Stronghold. Genesis Mech holders, and remember, I'm repeating this. This is not new. Genesis Mech holders can mint one Stronghold for gas fee only, right? So you will still be able to mint a free Stronghold. Just pay the gas, okay? Genesis Mech holders can also purchase additional Strongholds for 50% off. All right? So you can buy additional Strongholds. Why would you want to buy additional Strongholds? Well, when PDE launches, the only way for new players and or managers to get Strongholds will be from the secondary market, from the marketplace. And who's going to be selling them on the marketplace? You are. Okay? Now, the date for the Stronghold mint will be released shortly. I don't want to give a date yet because there's a couple timeline pieces that I'm waiting for from the generational code guy that I cannot, I can't guesstimate because he hasn't given me his production timeline yet. So as soon as he's finished that, which we just had our call about that before this call, I'll be able to announce the Stronghold. Eric, that may be something we do in the future where people can build new Strongholds. Okay, but that will require another module. Stronghold mint price is $400. So you'll be able to buy a Stronghold for $200 and have a $200 built-in profit margin with no need for the market to appreciate. How's that sound?
Okay, so there you go. Why do you want a Genesis Mech? For the first piece right here. Okay, Genesis Mech holder gets a free Stronghold. Then you can buy additional Strongholds for half the price of retail. Then the only way a new player can get a Stronghold, guess what? They buy them from us. I think that's pretty awesome. The fact that literally they're building into the game a way that us early investors immediately start making good sized revenue. I mean, we're talking a $200 profit margin for every Stronghold. So say you were to buy 5 of them, okay, and turn around and sell them. Now you turned $1,000 into $2,000. Well, that $2,000 just paid for your Genesis Mech. You just ROI'd straight off the bat doing nothing but selling Strongholds. That's before you start playing the game. That's before you start renting your mech or forging or anything else. So the fact that you can ROI so quickly is already built into this, and the fact that the team is really promoting the economy and the players themselves are the ones that are going to make the money. They're not saying, hey, you have to buy all the Strongholds from us. No, they're saying, hey, guess what? The only place you can buy a Stronghold is from the player next to you. I think that is truly awesome and unique for any project to do, and I've never heard of anybody else doing that. So these are one of the perks that really got me super excited about this and why I do really love the Mech.Game protocol, because they are really watching out for the longevity of the system and to really help and support the community. Let's see what other reasons there are to get in early with a Genesis Mech versus waiting for a Gen 2 Mech. Now, as we talked about earlier, the Genesis Mech is the only one that will be able to forge or breed right off the bat, okay? But there's a problem with most of these play-to-earn games is that the breeding gets out of control, or there's not enough, and so the floor price goes through the roof. There's no control of population to make sure that anybody can afford to still get into a mech at a decent price, but still make it hard enough to produce the mechs that they're not just oversaturated in the market and they're just totally useless. I mean, you look at Pegaxi. At one point in time, they were so rare that they were jumping up to $3,000 a piece, but today you can pick one up for like $3 because they're just worthless. They're oversaturated. So the forging aspect has created some very, very unique pieces on this. Now, to come up with this, Tanner and the crew, they're great at building the game, at coming up with all the business models and all that aspect. But the actual functionality, now that's a very unique area. What do? They went out and brought somebody onto the team that has a vast amount of experience, specifically in the gameplay, the tokenomics, and how to keep a protocol sustainable. So they introduced Shillbill today. Now, Shillbill is somebody who has played Pegaxis and Crabata and has been a huge investor in all of those and really tried to support those protocols by saying, hey, if you do this, you can keep the ecosystem alive. You can fix this problem. Here's where your problems are. Here's how you're not going to survive. And he really tried to point those out. Unfortunately, those teams didn't always go with that. And there was other aspects that they couldn't, I'm sure. But the biggest thing is Tanner, being the guy he is, trying to build this ecosystem for longevity and for survivability, as well as profitability, brought Shillbill on to the team as an active member, and his whole job is to really make this gameplay not only profitable for the players, but for the business, as well as make it so it's not so extreme or stupid that it's not going to survive longer than 3 months. So their goal is to literally make this game last for years, and that's what they're focusing on here. So now for the breeding or forging aspect, there are 4 components that are required. Okay, the first one is a credit token. Now that is not a token you can buy. That is only gathered through gameplay. Okay, the next one is the Mech token. Now that token can be gathered through gameplay and or can be purchased on the open market. The next component is USDT. Now, of course, we all know that's a stable coin. Now that is something we will actually have to pay out of pocket for the breeding process. And any USDT that goes in for the breeding immediately gets transferred out to the treasury and to the liquidity pool to help pay for the scholars who are renting the game, because that's one of the other unique aspects we're going to talk about further down the line. Okay, and the last part is very unique, and that's a blueprint. Now, blueprints are how the team are going to control population. If there's not enough and the floor price is going through the roof, they're going to create more blueprints to release to the populace. If the market's oversaturated and it's just not working, they're going to cut back the number of blueprints so only a certain number of mechs can be minted. So this is one way the team has control over the population growth of the protocol itself and keep it at a healthy level. Okay, so all 4 of these pieces are required to mint a mech. But now also on top of that, of course, you have to have the stronghold, and in the stronghold, you have to have a forge. So there's essentially 6 different components necessary for one mint of a Mech Gen 2. So when you take into account all the different components necessary to do the first Gen 2 Mech minting, you can kind of understand that I'm guessing what's going to happen on this game is once this gets launched, whatever low floor price exists, they're all going to get swept up. The few people who hear about this first, they're going to clean the floor on OpenSea, and they're going to get in here, and it's going to be a race to mint those Gen 2s. But what's going to happen? Once the Gen 2 release, since the floor was just swept, you're probably going to have a 1.5 or 2 ETH to even get a Gen 2. Now, they've got to build up a population level on OpenSea to get that floor price back down again. So that's why I feel it's really kind of important to get in either really early or be patient enough to wait till after this whole process occurs and the game starts going smooth. So it's a risk-reward factor. Totally up to you, but that's just my personal opinion. So let's keep going. Okay, so in this section, this is where Tanner introduces Shillbill. And Shillbill gives his first kind of introduction of what he's got on his plate, what he's doing, and how he's going to go about it. So let's go take a look.
Let's make sure I can see the chat and stuff over here as well. All right, so I guess this is sort of a bit of an overview of my role and sort of the stuff that I want to be, involved with and sort of day-to-day kind of stuff as well. If we look at pretty much 99% of play-to-earn games that have sort of rolled out over the last couple of years, there's not many that haven't dropped, 95% in token value, which is, the bar's not set high for me, but I've got, I am quite confident, at everything that we've done, but no one has 100% worked it out. But I think a lot of projects sort of just gave up, right? And we'll have a look at that when we see sort of the mistakes. But for my role, what I'm sort of looking at is, just economy based. We've got that new Discord channel that Tanner said for play to earn economy that will be, for owners as well, just to jump in and chat. Anyone who is in, other projects, they've normally got an owners or a guild chat in there. What I really want to do is have those weekly live catch-up sessions and just talk economy. So I'll just jump in Discord, share my screen like this. We'll set up like a voice channel and just chat with managers and see what's working, what's not working. Right, because the people that are interacting with everything inside the economy and the game itself every day are normally the people that you want to sort of make happy, because they're the people that are spending in the ecosystem as well, which then flows on and generates growth for the company on top.
Okay, so that part right there, the fact that the first thing Shillbill wants to do is set up a weekly meeting with the team owners, okay? That's not the actual team of Mech.Game. That's us. As if we have the Genesis Mech and we're running a team, we're sponsoring, we're doing all that, then yes, that is very much who he wants to talk to, if he wants to find out what's working, what's not. So the simple fact that this guy has been there, he knows if other protocols had just listened to the community, they probably would have done a lot better. But most times they got so wrapped up in the promotions and the minting and the NFTs and everything else to try to grow the populace, they forgot to pay attention to the details. So I think that's a really good move on Tanner's part to bring in Shillbill, because he's got that experience. He's been that owner. He's been on that receiving end of where the protocol is going the wrong direction. He sees it happening day by day, but they aren't listening. So Shillbill really wants to hear what people like you and I say with our Genesis Mechs and with our teams we're building, and what works and what doesn't. So my hat's off to him for absolutely putting that right at the top of the list there.
So looking at every mistake that's been made by other projects and making sure we don't repeat those mistakes. A Mech token itself, having sustainable growth. Liquidity, where this comes from, making sure there's enough liquidity. That's probably looking into mistakes that we've already seen. How game mechanics themselves will fit in with economy and tweaks. So as the game develops more, as sort of Tanner said, we've got, PvP modes, drone modes, all this kind of stuff, making sure that, that makes sense with the economy itself. Scholarship programs. I've been a manager for Axie, Peg Axie, pretty much nearly every other game as well. That's had them. So making sure that, that's working well. Because as soon as anyone who's been a manager before in other games sees that when that scholarship, when that starts, the cracks start forming in that's when literally everything else starts breaking as well. Looking at leaderboards, competitions, things like that, and wanting to build in levers to the economy itself to try and, be able to control it if you think about it. Everyone from the US, like the Fed, interest rates and things like that to try and, similar kind of stuff.
So before Bill goes on, two things. One other thing that we had talked about that Bill was excited about, and so am I, because both Bill and I like to teach and like to train and like to talk, which is convenient, right? But the thing is one of the problems that both of us have identified about the P2E space is we build a system and you expect people who've never used it before to know the best way to use it and the way to use it in the way that the game is intending that will actually help the sustainability. So we're going to be teaching and having training programs on how to actually, not you have to buy, but you can put a scholar through, put a manager through, that you can go and teach, because we want people to actually know how to use this game right, and teach scholars, hey, don't dump your tokens every day. Here's a way you can actually make more if you're smart with it and you don't try to sabotage the game. And managers, here's how you structure this. So that's one thing. The other thing I want to just caveat here with these mistakes that he's going to get into, there is not a functional tokenomics system in P2E yet because of the scholars. They're the boon and the bane at the same time, because they're constantly draining. Now, if you think about an economy, like he just said, the Fed, US, any country, an economy only works when there's give and take. Money in, money out. It has to be money in and out from both sides. It can't just be money out. Otherwise, it's not an economy, it's a drain, right? So what we're doing, and what Bill's really excited about, and me too, is we've got so many tools of what doesn't work and what could have worked that we're going to build all these different levers, like he said, and it's going to allow us to attempt and continually refine until we hit the perfect economic structure.
So he gives a whole list out of exactly what Bill is working on, and also really points out the problems and the fact that the team is seeing that. They want to build an ecosystem, a healthy, survivable ecosystem. Now, most teams really aren't that way. They're like, okay, we got the game, we released it. What the players do, it's kind of up to them. I mean, they tweak here and there, trying to get more longevity or a longer runway out of it. But essentially, most people know these things are going to bleed off and die. That has been the previous mindset. I really believe that with Shillbill's input, with Tanner's desire to make this thing last, to create a complete ecosystem, I think Mech.Game has the chance to survive far longer than any other protocol ever has, or even believed could. So it's another one of the reasons why I'm really excited on this. These guys are taking the ecosystem process very serious. They're building in the levers. They're doing population control. I mean, there's a lot of factors going on. And the fact that right off the bat, the first thing Shillbill is showing out here is what he's supposed to be doing. Next is all the mistakes he's noticed in the past from other protocols. And like I said, he's been in all the protocols. So it's good to know that he's taking notes. He's taking all that experience and putting it towards Mech.Game to really push it to the next level of gaming. So this next section kind of gets into the hybrid model. Now, keep in mind, this is still being fine-tuned, tweaked, and built. But a couple key points I want to point out is this really shows the team is hyper-focused on sustainability. In fact, one part of this, Shillbill even says that, if you're trying to ROI in 2 weeks or 30 days, yep, sorry, it's not going to happen. It's going to be a longer runway. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort. But that's really what we want. If people are being able to ROI in 2 to 4 weeks, then yeah, that's just not survivable, as we all know. It's just like outrageous APYs on these DAOs and stuff. They didn't live, okay? Because you can't keep paying that type of revenue out without an equal amount of revenue in. So you've got to find the balance. And there's only so much revenue to come in, especially in a bear market. So right now what they've done is really design this to where it's an evolving ecosystem. It's an economy, okay? Like Tanner said earlier, you've got to have in and out to have a healthy economy. If you're just paying out, you're bleeding to death. Putting it nice, that's just all it is. You're going to crash and burn. So this is a real quick synopsis, and he even says it's rough overview because it's still being finalized. So let's go see what they say.
So we'll have a look at the hybrid model and at a very, very rough overview. So as a player, I'm looking at this as a owner player, but you could take this and then just take 10% across for the scholar, or however that's going to work, whatever you work out with the scholar, depending on leaderboards. But if you own your mechs and you're going to play them yourself, what we're looking at here is that you earn the credits in game. They are like your in-game gold, not listed anywhere. You can't directly sell the credits. You're going to burn a certain amount of these. So if you look at burn mechanisms for repair, breed, minting things in the leaderboard, just something I thought about this morning, Tanner. Haven't talked to you about that one yet. But there's going to be way more burn mechanisms in the future as the game grows, right? So at the start, what we're looking at, a lot of the chunk has to go towards breeding as we expand and get more mechs out there, repairing and possibly a few other things. But there's going to be other stuff in the future of where you're going to be able to use your credit tokens that you've got in game. So when we're looking at the mint burn ratio, if anyone's sort of looked at before, it's of so let's say you had 100 credits, or if we're looking at it as an actual token that was used, if we had 100 SLP that were minted, if you're burning, if you use 80 of those to then breed more, and then you've got 20 that just sort of sits in your wallet, you've burned 80%. So while most of that's getting burnt, there's not only a 20% sell pressure. Where we've seen most other games is that 20% sell pressure is at least a baseline from whatever the scholars are getting. So if the scholars are getting 1%, it's a 1% automatic sell pressure. If it's 10%, it's a 10% automatic sell pressure. And that's when we spoke before about as the token goes down in price, this gets worse and worse until no one's breeding anymore. No one's using the utility tokens as actual utility. They're earning them all, sending them to your wallet, send them to Binance, sell all your SLP, get out. So we don't want that to happen. However, this is not able to, credits won't be able to be sent to Binance and sold, or sent to an LP and be sold. The only way to extract credits out is going to be to swap them for Mech. And this ratio of what it is going to be determined by how much the mint burn is. Hasn't been done before. I've run a bunch of numbers, sort of theorized it, talked to other people about it. But let's say you had 100, you use 80 for here, and you've got 20 that you're going to swap credit for Mech. So the more that people burn, the less amount is if you look at this as a circulating supply. So as a community, we're going to burn 80% of everything, breeding, repairs, and everything else. And there's going to be 20% left over. This 20% will then split up from what we drip in from the play to earn treasury. And we've got Mech, we'll have USD in there as well. There'll be other things in the future, I'm sure. But we're going to be dripping this out. And if anyone's played Gods Unchained, it's very similar to, this is one of the things that I liked from what they did with their Gods token, is that they had a certain amount per week, and depending on how many people played, depend on how much you got per reward. So this is very punishing if everybody just earns their credits and doesn't use them for any sort of burn mechanism. So if the mint burn is bad, if people earn like 190 and they only burnt 50 of them, their ratio is going to be worse. So as a community, when the mint burn ratio goes down, you get a worse ratio. Right. So let's say the circulating supply, we got 100 mech to give out, and the circulating supply was 300. Then we're looking at that kind of the ratio. So as the burn goes better and people burn more, you get a better ratio of what you're going to swap for. So at any given week, and we're looking at this resetting every Monday, taking a snapshot of the circulating supply and see how much people have earned and how much they've burnt as well. That will be when you'll be able to swap your remaining credit to Mech. But where we want to push people is to then burn using breeding or whatever else comes in the future as well with the credits, and then selling that for USDT rather than this. Because if everyone just sits and goes, all right, cool, I'm not gonna burn this, I'm gonna sell it, then this ratio goes way down, and for each credit you have, you get less Mech.
If you think about it, guys, like when you have a job, right? You earn $1,000 from your job. Do you get to keep $1,000? Or do you have to pay rent? And do you have to pay food? Do you have to recirculate some of that money? Not all of its profit. That's what we're talking about here. It's a true economy. So the burn mechanism, the repair, breed, mint, all of that, that's part of the economic requirements, right? Now, the other piece of that is that as you burn through breeding, yes, you're spending your credits to breed and not able to sell them as Mech. But then you're creating an asset that can be sold for a profit and directly into USDT. So if you aren't familiar with P2E, most of the big money was not made by managers selling the game token. It was made by managers selling the NFTs that they created. Okay, so that actually creates the better circulation and everything else. So what this does is if you use the game the way that it's supposed to and you support the economy, you're going to make more money than you would if you tried to screw the game and just extract.
So I think that's really neat. The fact that they're taking previous games, they're taking that experience, they're putting it into an ecosystem, an economy, if you will, and they're going to reevaluate it every week. It's not just, hey, here's how it is in the smart contract, run with it, see what it turns out to end up like. No, these guys are going to reevaluate. And this is the levers they were talking about earlier. There's going to be built-in levers where they can go in, reevaluate this, and adjust it accordingly. Because it does make sense. If we're just literally swapping and cashing out, then yeah, there's nothing rotating back in. Now, of course, a lot of us want to get rich quick. But the way this is set up, it's actually, like I said, more profitable for us to burn the tokens, and that gives more rewards to everybody included on the ratio, and then turn around and sell the NFTs, which are USDT, right back in. So we're actually ending up with better money, with less transfers, things like that, and supporting the economy versus just trying to do a quick cash grab. And even if you tried that, every week they're going to reevaluate. So all you're really doing is hurting yourself and the entire protocol in the long run. So that's where the whole training process comes in they were talking about before. They've designed this system, and this is very unique and very new. So they want to actually give classes saying, hey, here's the best gamification theory to utilize this existing structure. But now we also know that Shillbill is going to be in the community having these weekly events. They're going to continue to grow and monitor and change. And as new game theories come up and new piece of details of actual gameplay evolves, I'm sure they're going to update that educational information to couple with the new game theory. So literally, we will help to grow and evolve this protocol. And as we test it, as we continue to build, there are going to have to be tweaks. I mean, there's going to be balances. It has to happen. But the great thing is they're going to update the education to match it, as well as the economy to go with it. So the two are going to continue to grow evenly. I think that's a great aspect versus just writing a smart contract, throwing it out there, saying, hey, whatever you guys figure out, have fun, have a nice day. And I think we've all been a part of some of those. Now, there's one thing I want to toss out there that's covered later in the video, and that's essentially the scholars and the owners being paid in the same reward system. Well, the problem is the scholar is here to make money. 99% of the scholars are really here to make a profit playing a game. Okay, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to pay them in the Mech token that the owners are collecting for the burn mechanism or the minting process. Okay, so that doesn't make any sense. So what they're looking at doing is paying the scholars straight out in USDT. Yeah, right off the bat, give them exactly what they want. That way there isn't that burn down of the token value that the owners are trying to collect for their burn ratio and keep the ecosystem healthy. If somebody wants to come in and play, grab some money and go, great, they can, and it's not going to hurt the economy. I think that's a great next level thought process that nobody has really come up to before. So these are just some of the pieces going into this. And like I said, watch this AMA if you really want to know what Shillbill's doing, or jump in the Discord and talk to him. I jumped in there last night and I found he had this huge, long, hour-long conversation with one other person, just going through theories and ideas and sharing knowledge. And so it's great to be able to go in and actually talk directly to one of the team members and give them your thoughts. Because yeah, this team is one that is absolutely going to listen. So the last part I want to cover real quick is about QuickShot. Well, what is that? Well, in the process of developing this game, Tanner and the team found out that they had a problem onboarding this game onto your Android and iOS systems, okay? It wasn't compatible. They had to take it to the next level and create a central platform. And in doing so, they actually created a complete infrastructure system that any game could be onboarded to Android and iOS. Hence, that created the birth of the QuickShot company. And it is a registered company out of Dubai that this team owns. But they want to give us an opportunity to be a part of that company. So let's go see what Tanner has to say.
The founder's card. Now, for some reason, they didn't show up very clear on here, but these founder's cards, right here, it says QuickShot. Okay, QuickShot is the company that Jarvis and I own that is going to own the infrastructure tools that we are building. This is a Dubai company that has just been formed. We went through all the legal processes. And so I want to explain something to you. Mech.Game is one company. And then there is the infrastructure tools, which have to be siloed out in order to be able to turn them into a software tool and an infrastructure service company, right? So they're two separate entities. Technically, one does not affect the other. Mech eventually, quote unquote, becomes a client of the infrastructure company, which of course it's not going to pay for it because Mech is the reason it exists. But from a company structure standpoint, that's how that is. However, Jarvis and I were talking about this and understanding how we're structuring the company and how things need to change. And so technically the way things are, Mech is its own entity and the infrastructure company is its own entity in operation. So when Mech.Game generates money, it doesn't impact the infrastructure company. When the infrastructure company generates money, it doesn't impact Mech.Game. However, we were talking about it and we were like, hey, that doesn't really make sense, especially not for our Genesis holders and everything, because the infrastructure company and tools would not exist if it wasn't for Mech.Game and us deciding and discovering that we actually needed to build these tools that didn't exist, because we didn't exactly know that when we set out. So it's fair to say that these infrastructure tools would have never even been built if it hadn't been for us starting Mech.Game and you guys supporting the project. So we said, okay, how can we do this in an interesting way that makes sense? So first of all, one of the things we're going to do is when the infrastructure company makes money, that is going to be one of the revenue sources or income sources that comes back into the company treasury that Bill was talking about, we need additional revenue coming back in to offset money coming out, and as many of those different revenue streams as can be. So a percentage of the money, almost like you call it a royalty or whatever else, that is made from the infrastructure company is going to go back into the Mech.Game treasury to help support the ecosystem. Some of that money will go to liquidity. Some of it will go to the treasury and payouts and prizes, wherever it makes the most sense. But we said, hey, what else can we do? How else can we make this exciting? And Jarvis had brought up a point that many people have gotten into crypto or gotten into play to earn specifically because they want some kind of business, or they want to be in business, or they want to generate revenue through some sort of business practice, whether it's like managers like Bill used to do or does, or as a scholar playing to earn and things like that. But that most people don't have the resources, the tools, the experience, the connections, the whatever you want to call it, to build a company or something like the infrastructure stuff that we're building. And we said, well, hey, and Jarvis is right. And I'm like, that's a very good point. And I said, well, what if we did something cool? And he had the idea of creating founders cards. So founders cards are going to be multi-leveled cards that basically bronze, silver, gold, a diamond, and maybe platinum or whatever else you want to do, that are going to be NFTs. And if you have one of these NFTs, it's going to give you access to a bonus pool or profit pool of payouts from the infrastructure company. Okay, so this is separate from the money going back into the game. This is going to be a separate pool of a percentage of the profits the company generates as we start onboarding clients and selling and productizing our services and everything, because this company has a lot of potential. And we want people who want to support that to be able to participate in it. So if you have this card, it means that as the company generates money and a percentage of that money gets diverted into this bonus pool or prize pool, when that payout happens, whether it's monthly or quarterly or whatever that winds up being established, based on your card level, you will get a percentage of that prize pool.
So I really like the fact that Tanner pointed out that this company wouldn't exist if Mech.Game didn't exist. And Mech.Game wouldn't exist, of course, if us Genesis holders didn't believe in it, buy into it, and start building this product. Okay, so the fact that they remember who helped push them to this level and they want to reward back to that, that is something to me that is really, really huge. A lot of protocols would not do that. A lot of protocols would say, hey, we found out we needed this, and so we started this new company and we're going to make 2 revenue streams and now we're going to be really, really rich. These guys aren't doing that. They're saying, hey, how do we support the community that got us here? How do we help those people in the very beginning? To me, that is a huge, huge thing to remember, the little people like us. But the question now, of course, is how do we get one, right? Let's jump ahead just a little bit.
The special thing is that how this affects Genesis Pass holders is these are going to be available for sale. There's going to be a mint. You can be able to buy different levels of access, maybe, but you may not be able to buy the highest level. Maybe you have to win that. We haven't decided exactly how the rollout's going to happen. But Genesis Mech holders, you can see the Mech logo on the bottom of that founder's card. You guys get the perk. So you will be able to either mint at a discount or straight where you have a random chance of even getting a diamond card, giveaway possibilities, and you could even buy a higher level card at the price of a lower level card. So this is not the number, but I'm giving you an example. Let's say a gold card was $300, and I'm making that number up just to give you an example. And a bronze card was $100. We would let Mech holders do something like that where they could buy the gold card for $100, basically by paying the price of a bronze. Does that make sense?
So there you go, guys. That takes it to a whole nother level there, where literally as a Mech holder, they're talking about either giving away, earning, or getting a discount on the founder's card to a completely separate company than Mech.Game, because they remember who supported them in the very beginning, and that's the Mech holders. So I think that counts for a lot of reasons to really consider getting a Genesis Mech if this is something that you're interested in. Like I said before, this is not financial advice. This is something I believe strongly in. And these are the bullet points that really jumped out to me when I was listening to this. And I've listened to this a couple different times now. But if you want to get the whole story, absolutely. Jump to the Discord, watch this AMA, get to know the team, ask the questions. Okay, everybody, I think that wraps up the bullet points that really jumped out at me during this AMA. And I wanted to get them out to you right away because this, I think, is some game-changing events. And right now, with the floor prices of Mech being so low, I would hate for anybody to wait too long and then have to pay 2 Ethereum for one of these mechs that right now is down for less than half an Ethereum. So just my 2 cents. If it is something you're interested in, always do your own research. Jump to the Discord, watch the AMA, read the white paper, talk to the team, make sure it's a good fit for you. And remember that none of this is ever financial advice, and you should never listen to me or anybody else on making your investments. You need to do the research and find out what's really right for you, because nobody knows your situation better than you. So I want to thank you again for always being here with me on this journey. And until next time, have a great night.